if you're off on one of these things, right, particularly where do they go next? That's where a lot of people get stuck because they think, well, I have 1,000 downloads a month. That's perfect. Yeah, it's good. It's really good to have that many downloads, but where do those people go in between your episodes? Podcast Growth Nation, welcome back to another episode of Podcast Growth University, where we talk all things podcasting all the time. I hope you enjoyed the latest episode. It was episode number 42. Your podcast isn't about you. It's about the audience. That was one of my favorite ones because I've been talking about that a lot behind the scenes with clients, and I think that's one of the reasons a lot of us aren't as successful as we want. So if you did not listen to that one, make sure you go back. Today, for episode number 43, 3 questions for every level of your podcast business. So I mentioned this in the closing of the previous episode, but for some reason, I love 3 questions. I love 3 reasons. I love 3. I don't know why, but I think maybe it's because they're easy to remember. So today we're going to talk about the 3 questions for every level of your podcast business. Okay. I want you to imagine this. You are getting ready to go to 2 restaurants, right? You have the opportunity to go to 2 restaurants. One is insert your least favorite fast food restaurant. I won't say I like fast food restaurants, but I have an understanding of what I'm going to get, so that definitely helps things. So you're either going to go to your least favorite fast food restaurant or your most favorite, either one, / or a very, very, very fancy restaurant. So when you go to, let's just say it's McDonald's, what are you expecting? Are you expecting cold fries? Are you expecting your sandwich to look exactly like it does in the commercials? Are you expecting great customer service? Are you expecting quick food? What are you expecting? Cheap prices? Okay. Now I want you to imagine you're going to a very, 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 very fancy steakhouse or a very, very fancy Italian restaurant, whatever you're in the mood for right now. What are you expecting? You're probably expecting world-class service if it's very expensive. You're probably expecting your reservation to be on time, your table to be clean, your silverware to be clean, your waiter or waitress to take care of you. You're probably expecting it to be expensive. So the first question, okay, for every single level of your podcast business is this: what do people expect here? So again, I want you to imagine this. Just think of your business model as an upside down triangle. Okay, so imagine that. The top of that business model is social media. Then it is podcast. Then it is some sort of group. Then it is some sort of freebie. And then it is some sort of paid option. Okay. Somebody is going to expect something drastically different on social media than they are when they pay you. One of the reasons, I think at least, one of the reasons a lot of us struggle is because we're not giving people what they expect at the level of business model they're at. Okay, so I always tell people, what do people expect on your social media? They expect whatever is an extension of your personal brand, right? So again, for me, it's cats, fitness, martial arts, podcasting, self-improvement, my family. That's kind of what you expect on my social media because that's pretty much all I post about, but that's my brand. That's my personal brand in a nutshell. So what do people expect? If you're not matching somebody's expectations at the level of the business model, they're not going to feel aligned and they're not going to be able to get the value that they ultimately want and the value they ultimately came to that level of the business model for. So that's the first question. What do people expect? Okay. Second scenario. It is a Saturday afternoon. The weather is beautiful and you decide I'm going to go to this rock concert. But when you get to the rock concert, you realize very quickly that it is a classical music concert. You went there to drink beer and tailgate and listen to some of your favorite country songs on the planet. But when you got there, you realize, oh, there is no tailgating. It's inside. It's suit and tie. Everything is different, right? It's not country music. It's classical music. Why are the people there? So why did somebody go to the concert? They went to the concert. They're there for a rock show, but they ended up getting a classical music show. Again, just an example. So the second question is, why are they there? So why, this is one of my favorite things in the world, why would somebody who follows you on social media listen to your podcast? Why would they join a private Facebook group instead of just listening to your podcast? Now, here's where things get interesting for people. I think a lot of us And again, we did this in the beginning, right? Now, one of the amazing members of our team, Amy, she's in the Facebook group making sure the content is aligned and making sure there's engagement and all that. But in the beginning, we would probably just repurpose a lot of our content. Then we learned very quickly that's not why people are there. Many people join a Facebook group because it's exclusive. It's not what everybody else is getting. So you taking a teaser clip or you taking a post that you put on Instagram or Facebook or whatever it is, LinkedIn, TikTok, whatever, throwing that in your Facebook group, probably not going to be valuable because that's not why people are there. Some people join Facebook groups to network. That's why they're there. Other people join Facebook groups to get more value. That's why they're there. Many people join Facebook groups to find like-minded members of a community. So you have to ask yourself that question. Why would somebody who listens to the podcast ultimately want to join the Facebook group? It might not be for the reason that you think. Now, here's the other interesting thing. A lot of people are going to do things for different reasons than you would. We're not marketing to ourselves. We're marketing to other people more often than not. Okay, so first question, what do they expect? Second question, why are they there? Third question, okay, well, third example, then question. I don't know if you've ever been to Disney World or Disneyland or Six Flags or any amusement park, whatever amusement park you have wherever you are in the world, but there is somebody who it is their job to design this amusement park so after you get off a roller coaster, you'll go to the next roller coaster and you'll stay there for as long as humanly possible, right? Or they'll put the snacks in front of a certain place where you're going to stand, like maybe the Ferris wheel or the merry-go-round. There's a reason it's there because they know where you're going to go next and they know where you're going to spend the most time. They understand the flow of that park. Third question, where does your ideal listener, where does your ideal client, where does the person who's listening to your podcast go next?
Hi, my name's John Laurito, and I just wanted to give a big shout out to Kevin Palmieri. I had reached out to him. He had been referred to me when I had shared with a friend of mine some interest in doing a podcast, and he said, you've got to use Kevin. He's fantastic. He's the best around. He'll get you started and off the ground and soaring high in no time. And take it from somebody who knows nothing about podcasting other than maybe saying a few things. But as far as behind the scenes, the startup, everything, I knew nothing. Kevin was phenomenal in terms of leading me through the whole process, and not just easy to work with, but really, really knows his stuff. A great combination between leading me through all the stuff I had no idea what I was doing, but also really listening to me and understanding what it was I was trying to accomplish and what my vision is. So whether you're looking for somebody to help you and get you started, or somebody, as I've done, where I'm putting it entirely in his hands because I've got total trust and confidence in him, and he is a true pro and easy to work with, any of those ends of the spectrum, you're going to have a lot of success and a lot of fun working with Kevin. Trust me. Thanks.
Okay. Now, this is one that I have seen so many people be guilty of. And again, we were definitely guilty of this too in the beginning. I just got off of a Zoom call with a client, and we were talking about the call to action. All right. We were talking about at the end of your episode, you want to talk about this. You want to send people here to add more value. And my client said, oh my goodness, I haven't been doing that at all. And it's like, okay, cool. Now we understand that. Now we can start practicing that. So here's the thought process. When somebody follows you on social media, where are they supposed to go next? Most likely the podcast. Then where? Now here's where a lot of people get stuck. I will talk to somebody and they'll say, okay, well, from the podcast, they're supposed to go to my coaching page. Oh, interesting. You think somebody's going to jump. I'm not saying this is wrong. You think somebody is going to jump from listening to your podcast to paying you $150 an hour. Interesting. Okay, what if we tried to get them to join the Facebook group where there is more value, but it's completely free? Do you think we would have a higher success rate? Yes. Okay, let's try that. Okay, now when they listen to the podcast, the where is a Facebook group. It's not a paid option. I think that's an interesting understanding for us all to have is the where, the barrier to entry has to be low. So I want you to think about this. And I think this is probably going to be a more in-depth episode than I realized. But we have a couple different calls to action, a couple of different types, right? We have highest probability and we have highest ROI, so return on investment. And I can explain that a little bit here. as we go through. The highest probability is when somebody listens to the podcast, they're going to take the action that is easiest for them to take, the action that is going to happen more often than not. Okay, so the highest probability we have found is they're going to join a Facebook group. That's the highest probability. It's most likely to happen. If we were betting on it, that's what we would bet on. The highest ROI, the highest return on investment is, can I make X amount of dollars from this call to action? So what can I get out of this call to action? The return on my investment of this call to action. For many of us, it's coaching. But the highest ROI call to action is usually also the lowest probability, right? There's a reason you scratching a scratch ticket, right? It's very high ROI. If you win, you're going to win $500 million. The ROI of you spending that 35 seconds to scratch that ticket is unbelievable. But the probability of you winning is very low, right? It's extremely low. The probability of you winning a $5 scratch ticket is probably way higher, so the ROI is not as high either. So I just want to make sure I throw that out there. So this is what I've seen. A lot of us were trying to say, oh, the where should somebody go after they listen to this episode? That's going to be my website, or that's going to be my mailing list, or that's going to be them paying me for coaching or hiring me to speak or buying my book or whatever it is. And usually I'll say, okay, is that a highest probability or is that a highest ROI? Because the highest probability is probably what we want to do because it's going to ultimately allow us to add more value to the person and then move them deeper into the business, or they're going to end up where they should. Not everybody should end up a client. Not everybody should buy your book. Some people should be in the Facebook group and stay there. That's totally fine. That's the appropriate level of value for what they're willing to invest. So I always ask these three questions. Anytime I'm talking to somebody, I say, okay, what do they expect on the podcast? They expect straightforward advice about podcasting. Awesome. Why are they there? Well, most likely they're there because they want to succeed with their podcast at a deeper level and ultimately probably make money, if I had to guess. That's why they want to listen to the show. They want to feel more successful. They want to have a deeper understanding of knowledge, and they want more results. Okay, where do they go next? Now, here's the interesting thing. I'm not practicing what I'm preaching currently because I don't have a Facebook group set up. Again, that's coming. Now just isn't the time with everything going on in the other business. But ultimately, every single time I get to the end of this, where do you go next? Hopefully a free call with me so I can add more value. That's the where. Now, here we go. That call to action isn't a super high probability, right? Say 100 people listen to this episode and only 1% of people take action on that. That's only one person. So the highest probability isn't super high right now. Where if I had a Facebook groups, maybe 5 people might join, right? Maybe 5 people who listen out of the 100 might join. So I understand I'm not practicing what I'm preaching here, but we are in the other podcast that we're doing, and that's where we've learned most of this. So yeah, that's the question. What do people expect? Why are they there? And where do they go next? And if you're off on one of these things, right, particularly where do they go next? That's where a lot of people get stuck because they think, well, I have 1,000 downloads a month. That's perfect. Yeah, it's good. It's really good to have that many downloads, but where do those people go in between your episodes? If you only produce one episode a week, where do they go for the other 6 days? Oh, I have a Facebook group. Awesome. Where do they go after that? Oh, we have a mailing list. Awesome. Where do they go after that, right? So you're thinking to yourself, ultimately, where are people supposed to end up? Where do they go? There's always somewhere else for them to go. And here's the interesting thing. Say you get somebody to work with you one-on-one. Your one-on-one clients go back to the top of your business model and they like your stuff on social media. And they are pillars in your Facebook community. They attend your free stuff. That's where things really start to compound, is the people who are the most committed are also the most engaged. So there's always somewhere else for somebody to go. So those are the 3 questions. What do they expect? Why are they there? Where do they go next? So when you're looking at your social media, ask yourself that question. Facebook group, ask yourself that question. Mailing list. I think this is a reason mailing lists don't work for a lot of us. Why are they there? They're not there to get sold. They're not there. Really, that's it. They're not there so you can tell them about your book necessarily. They're there because they were hoping they were going to get more value. Ultimately, that's the goal. Okay. So that's why they're there. And then where do they go next? What is the next step? It's a good one. I enjoyed this one. 14 minutes on the clock. Podcast Growth Nation, as I have mentioned in the previous 40 some odd episodes, I would love to hop on a totally free podcast breakthrough session with you. We will go through your business. We'll talk about where you're winning. We'll talk about what's bottlenecking you and stopping you from the level of success you desire. And we'll get to know each other. And I think that more than anything is the most valuable piece of that. Next week for episode number 44, a very common question I get asked that I did not expect to get asked this often. Should you have a co-host? I've worked with many podcasters who are pairs. There's a host and a co-host, or two co-hosts, or two hosts, however you want to quantify it. And I have seen many of these partnerships not succeed. So I'm going to talk about that. Should you have a co-host? And if you do, how do you successfully have one? As always, I appreciate you all. I am grateful for you all. It is wild to me that in 8 or 9 episodes, we will have a year full of content. Blows my mind. It's going by so fast. I love you all. I hope you are crushing it. Keep on podcasting. Keep on doing it. Keep on talking to your community. Keep on asking these 3 questions, and I will talk to you all next week.